What's up, everybody? I hope y'all are having a wonderful day. My name's Anthony, and today we are back in the kitchen because it's raining outside from the tropical storm. So I figured I would show y'all how to do a little bit more bread making. And one of the best, easiest recipes I have, especially for holidays, if you want to add a little bit of pizzazz and flair, is a basic braided bread loaf. Now, if y'all remember the last time we made bread on this channel, it was a basic sandwich bread recipe. I will put that down in the description below just in case you wanted to see that. I literally go from start to finish on that one. But on this episode, we're going to kind of up the ante a little bit, and I wanted to make a little bit more of a fancier loaf. So that means I'm going to add another type of flour, and I wanted to add a fat. So we're still going to be using our normal flour, salt, yeast, and water, but this time we're going to be adding some whole wheat flour and some butter. Alright, so in order to make this little fancy schmancy bread, all we're going to need is some whole wheat flour. I like to use organic. Some bread flour, unbleached. King Arthur flour makes a really good one. Some salt, yeast, butter, some water, a scale, and a bowl to mix it all in. Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to turn our scale on, put it to grams, because if you've watched my channel before, you know that I like to go by weight, not volume. We're going to zero out our scale if we press the right button, and we are going to zero it out and put in about 20 to 25 grams of butter. There, perfect. We're going to add water till it gets up to 340 grams. Close enough. Alright, to start us off, we're going to put in 400 grams of the bread flour, and then we're going to finish it with 100 grams of the whole wheat flour. Whenever using wheat flour, I find it is a good idea to not go over 1/3 to bread flour, or else you're going to start getting some weird stuff. Alright. We are going to add to one side of this, we are going to add 10 grams of salt. Cool. And to the other side, we are going to add 1 packet of yeast. While I was mixing this, I threw the water and butter mixture in the microwave for about 50 seconds, 50, just enough to melt the butter, and I want to let it cool to the point where I can put my finger in it and it feels like bath water. I don't want the water too hot because I don't want it to kill the yeast, but I don't want it too cold either because it'll take forever to rise. So now that we're nice and warm, I'm going to take my mixture and just pour it in. Alright, we are now to the scariest part of bread making for a lot of people, and that is going to be the knead. A lot of people are intimidated by kneading because they've never either done it or they think it's just one of those processes that requires a whole bunch of skill that they may not have. Now, don't get me wrong, if you have like sensitive wrists, if you're older, then yeah, absolutely, go get a bread machine and knead it that way, or try a no-knead bread. But if you were younger, if you have the ability to, you're just kind of scared of the technique, I'm going to show y'all how I knead. That way you can do it very easily. Now, the whole purpose of kneading bread is to build the gluten structure. Wheat has gluten, but in order to get the gluten to work for you, you're going to have to give it a little bit of push, a little bit of kneading, and that's why we do this. If you do not knead, you're going to need something called time. That's why no-knead bread works, but you have to usually let it sit overnight. So if you want to not do that, if you want to go ahead and have bread pretty quickly, you're going to want to go ahead and knead it. That's why I'm going to show you how to do it now. All right, now as you can see, all I'm doing is I'm taking the heel of my hand, the palm of my hand, and I'm just pushing against the table. Push, roll back. Push, roll back. Just like that. And then I'm turning it 90 degrees. Here I'm just trying to get all the little pieces that have flown off. All right. All right, now a lot of people don't know when they're done kneading. The best advice I can give you is when you can do this. See how it's got a structure? You stretch it, it's not coming apart on you. This usually means when it starts to stretch like that, that your gluten has developed and you're just about done kneading. For me, that usually takes between 6 to 10 minutes. A few more just so I can get into good shape. All right, now, when you're done kneading, I want you to let it rest for about, I don't know, 2 minutes. Right there. All right, after about 2 minutes, the dough should have relaxed substantially. You'll have like a completely different feel to it from when you stopped. It's going to be a lot softer. It's got a nice little spring to it. Perfect. So what you're going to do now is just basically fold it in on itself to make a nice little ball. So basically, this is the back side of it. I want you to just fold in like this. See how it's nice and round now? Doesn't matter about the bottom. We care about the top. We're going to take our bowl that we mixed in. We're not going to clean it out. It's still dirty. We're just going to set it down at the bottom and cover it with a towel for I'd say about an hour or so. All right, we've waited about an hour and 10 minutes and it's looking pretty darn good. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to put down a base layer of flour. We're going to scrape this out of the bowl. All right, fantastic. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to cut this into 3 equal sections. They're about as equal as we can get. So we're going to use our scraper. We're just going to coat it, obviously, and cut it in half. Or cut it in thirds, I'm sorry. Just eyeball it as much as you can. This one's got a little bit too much. So we're going to throw that on there. Okay. Now, all we're going to do is we're going to make these into little rolls. Alright, so now that we have all 3, pretty good length, about even, we're just going to start our braiding process. Figured I might, practice braiding since I have a daughter coming home. And I'm going to have to eventually braid her hair, right? Right, ladies? Alright, now the ends, we're just going to fold under each other like this, pinch them together, fold them under. and we're going to put it onto a baking sheet lined with parchment. Okay. Just like that. All right, now we're going to cover this again for about another hour. All right, so it's been about an hour. Let's see where we are. Now that looks good. Smells good. We're going to go ahead and put this in the oven at 375 for about 30 to 35 minutes. And for those of y'all like me who like a little bit of a lighter crust, I like to add a pan like this, and I fill it up with about halfway of water. And I just stick it on the bottom shelf of the oven while it's preheating. And I leave it in there the entire time it's baking. But the whole purpose of that is to make sure that the steam from the water as it's evaporating fills in the oven and makes it nice and humid in there. The more humid it gets, the more steam that's in there, that crust is going to react differently versus having a dry oven. So you're not going to get quite as thick and harsh of a crust. That way it makes it a little bit easier to eat. Alright, it's been about an hour and it has cooled down. So we're going to go ahead and slice this, just to see how well we've done. You never want to cut into a loaf right as you get done, because it's still gummy inside. So, oh, look at that. Now that is a fantastic crumb. Look at that. Nice and open, spongy, soft. That is perfect. I like the end pieces. Alright, there you have it. Super, super easy recipe. If you are on the fence about doing your own bread baking, I hope this kind of pushes you over that ledge, and maybe you want to start doing it yourself. I'm going to go ahead and put down a whole bunch of my bread making videos in their own separate playlist. That way, if you really wanted to do something like this, you have a whole bunch of resource material for it. And I'm going to be adding to that probably a few more times before the end of the year, because like I said, I like making bread that much. I want to make sure that I have as many different kind of recipes to help everybody out there as I possibly can. This recipe in itself is one of those that's there for like special occasions, because I mean, let's be honest here, when you take a loaf like that and put it in the center of a table, it gets attention. It's kind of a focal point, and it's a good conversation starter, because people are going to walk in and be like, wow, who made that bread? That thing looks and tastes great. I did. So I want to be able to give that to y'all. Another thing that I get asked all the time is, why do you use grams versus cups whenever you're weighing out the flour? I wanted to go ahead and address that because you get better results. It's more consistent. So there's a lot of people out there who might take my grams and try to calculate that into cups. Don't do that. Just go ahead and get a small scale, and it'll make everything much more consistent. Trust me. Ever since I started weighing out my flour, everything I've made has been leaps and bounds way more consistent than it had ever been before that. So if you like my video, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and I'll catch you on the next one, okay?